right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Bhagavad Gita class. This evening, we're going to be looking at Chapter 3, Karma Yoga, the Path of Action. Hope you've all been doing your homework and learning the verses. Again, just to say, please keep your cameras on and your microphones off. Unless you're asked to speak. We'll begin by hearing the verses of the third chapter recited by Srila Govinda Maharaj.
Karma Yoga, Arjuna Jayati Chit Karmanaste Mata Buddhi Janardana Tatking Karmanin Ghore Manginiu Jayasiki Sava Vyami Srena Bhakena Buddhi Mohaya Shiva Me Tadekam Badanischita Jena Sriyo Hamapnuyam Sri Bhagavan Vata Lokesmini Dividha Nishtha Pura Trukta Mayanaga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam Na Karmana Manarambha Naiskalmam Purunti Na Chasanna Sanadeva Siddhin Samadhigacchati Naikachit Karmapi Yatu Tishtatta Karmakrit Karyati Chavasa Karma Sarva Prakriti Joy Pure Karmendriyani Sangyamma Jasti Manasa Smaran Indriyatthal Vimurhatma Mitthachara Sauchate Justindriyani Manasa Niyamyaravade Rijuna Karmendriyai Karma Yoga Vasakta Savichishate Niyatang Kuru Karma Tam Karma Chayuchakarama Sarira Jatra Pichate Na Prasiddhe Dakarmana Jankyata Karmano Natra Lokoyam Karma Bandhana Tadattham Karma Kuntiya Mutta Sangha Samachara Sahajancha Prajastrisva Purovacha Prajapati Anena Prasadi Sattam Esa Bhustishta Kamadu Devan Bhavayata Nena Te Deva Bhavayantuva Parasparam Bhavayanta Teya Paramamachata Istan Bhuvan Vivo Deva Dashante Jagga Bhavitaha Taidvattana Pradaya Po Jo Bhukte Stena Eva Sham Jagga Sistashina Santu Muchante Sarva Kilmishay Bhunjate Papa Ye Patantyatma Karana Annad Pavanti Bhutani Vachannad Anna Sambhava Jagad Bhavadivajannu Jagga Karma Saud Bhava Karma Brahmad Bhavan Vidhi Brahmakar Samud Bhavam Tasmat Sarvagatan Brahma Nityam Jagge Patishidam Evang Pravartitam Chakram Nanu Bhattaya Tihaja Aghayurindriya Rama Mukham Partha Savivati Datsvatmanatireva Shat Atma Triptascha Manava Atmaneva Chasantushta Tasya Jagna Vidyate Naiva Tasya Kritenatho Nakrite Neha Kaschana No Chasya Sarva Bhuteshu Pachidartha Babasaya Tasmada Satsam Kacham Karma Samachara Aratto Chacharam Karma परमाप्नोति पुरुषः कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धि मास्थिता जनकादयः लोकसंग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि यच्चदाचरसि श्रेष्ठ तत्तदेवेतरो जनः छायत् प्रमाणं कृते लोकस्तद् अनुवर्तते न मे पट्टास्ति कर्तव्यम् तेषु लोकेषु किञ्चन नानावाप्तम् अवाप्तव्यम् वर्त एव च कर्मणि यदीच्छां न वर्तेयं यातु कर्मान्यतमृता मम वर्तानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पास सर्वशः उत्सिदेयुरिमे लोकाः न कुर्यां कर्म चेदहं शङ्करस्य च कर्ता च उपहन्यामि मां प्रजाः सक्ताः कर्मण्य विद्वांसो
Verse 25.
यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद् विद्वांस तथा सक्तः चिकीर्षु लोकसङ्ग्रहम् न बुद्धिभेदं जनयेत् अज्ञानं कर्मसङ्गिनाम् योजयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन् प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते तत्तवित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयो गुणा गुणेषु वर्तन्त इति मत्वा न सज्जते प्रकृतिर्गुणसङ्गमूढः सज्जन्ते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृष्णविदो मन्दान् कृष्णविद् न विचालयेत् मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि संगनस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा युद्धस्य विगतज्वरः ये मे मतमिदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवाः श्रद्धावन्तो न सूयन्तो मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः यत्ते तत्तत्प्रसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञान विमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान् अचेतसः सदृशंचिष्टते सस्या प्रकृतिर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं जानति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ भवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमागच्छेत् तौ यस्य परिपन्थिनौ श्रेयान् सधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् सनुष्ठितात् सधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः परधर्मो भयावहः श्रीयर्चुनुवाच अधकेन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः श्रीभगवानुवाच काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुणसमुद्भव महाशनो महापापिनः विद्धेरमिह वैरिणम् धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर्यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्लेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम् आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेणानलेन च इन्द्रियाणि मनोबुद्धिरस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एतद्विमोहयते स ज्ञानमावृत्तते हिनम् तस्मात् तामिन्द्रियाण्यादौ नियम्य भरतर्षभ पाप्नानां प्रजहीच्छेदं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम् इन्द्रियाणि परान्नाहुरिन्द्रियेभ्यः परगमनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर्बुद्धिर्यः परतस्तु स एवं बुद्धेः परमबुद्ध्या संस्तुभ्यात्मानमात्मना जहि सत्यं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुराशदम् इति श्रीमहाभारते संसारस्यां संहितायां वैयाधिकं भीष्मपर्वणि श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे कर्मयोग नाम तृतीयोऽध्यायः।
Okay. Yeah, Marilyn. So, Karma Yoga, the path of action. Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshava, if you consider wisdom superior to action, why then do you urge me to engage in the violence of warfare? I am confused by your words. They appear to be ambiguous, sometimes supporting action and sometimes supporting wisdom. So please tell me which is the most beneficial path for me to take. The Supreme Lord replied, O sinless one, I have described the two paths to be found in this world, the yoga of wisdom practiced by the realized, and the yoga of selfless action practiced by those active in the world. Both paths touch the beginnings of devotional practice, since the ladder to the plane of devotion is one, while the practice is twofold according to the stage attained. One cannot attain freedom from action by refraining from action, nor can one attain fulfillment by renunciation alone. No one can refrain from activity for even a moment. Everyone is impelled to act by the modes of material nature. Thus, the person of impure consciousness should not disregard scripturally prescribed purificatory works. One who externally restrains his hands, legs, and other senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, is a fool. Know him to be a hypocrite. O Arjun, superior is one who, though married, has stabilized his senses by the mind and engaged in the yoga of selfless action. Perform your prescribed duties, since to be active is better than idleness. Inactive persons cannot even maintain their existence. By giving up fruitive action and performing your obligatory duties, your heart will be purified. Surpassing the plane of renunciation, you will attain pure devotion, transcendental to the mundane plane. Selfless duty performed as an offering to the Supreme Lord is called yajna, or sacrifice. O Arjuna, all action performed for any other purpose is the cause of bondage in this world of repeated birth and death. Therefore, remaining unattached to the fruits of action, perform all your duties in the spirit of such sacrifice. Such selfless action is the way to begin devotional practice, gradually realize the presence of the Lord, and ultimately attain pure devotion, transcendental to the modes of material nature, or nirguna bhakti. In the beginning, Lord Brahma manifested this progeny of the world along with sacrifices. He instructed them thus: take shelter of this religious principle of sacrifice, prosper and flourish. May such sacrifice be the bestower of the things you desire. Propitiate the gods by sacrifices, and may they satisfy you by bestowing your desired fruits. In this way, through mutual nourishment, you will be the gainer of great auspiciousness. Propitiated by sacrifices, the gods, my worldly representatives, will bestow upon you all your desired enjoyable things. But one who enjoys what is given by the gods without offering it to them is a thief. By accepting sacrificial remnants of the universal gods, virtuous persons are liberated from all sins arising from violence towards other living entities. But those who prepare food for their own pleasure partake only of sin. The remnants referred to here are not the same as Krishna Prasad, food that has been offered to the Supreme Lord by his devotees. The living beings' bodies are manifest from food. Food is manifest due to rain. Rainfall ensues from the performance of sacrifice, and action is the cause of sacrifice. Action is prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas originate in Akara, the imperishable. Therefore, the all-pervading imperishable Lord is ever present within the acts of sacrifice offered to him. O Arjuna, one who does not respect this natural causal cycle leads a life of sin, enjoying the senses in vain. Yet there is no duty to fulfill for the realized person who delights within the self, being fully satisfied within. His only worldly action or karma is as required for his subsistence. In the world, he neither gains by action nor loses by inaction. He does not depend on any other being, from Lord Brahma down to the simplest life form, for any purpose. So perform your prescribed duties without attachment. By selflessly executing one's duties, a person attains liberation. True liberation is the state of pure devotion attained in the maturity of selfless action. King Janak and other learned personalities succeeded in attaining devotion through the execution of their prescribed duties. So it is fitting that you fulfill your duty in consideration of the welfare of the people. The masses follow the ways of great men, following the standards they set. O Arjun, I have no duty in the three worlds. I lack nothing, and there is nothing to be attained by me, and yet I myself am active. O Arjun, if ever I do not engage attentively in duties, then all men following my example will give up their duties. If I do not engage in duty, the people of these worlds will renounce their duties and fall to ruination. Thus, I will be responsible for their downfall caused by adulterated progeny. O Arjuna, as ignorant persons work with attachment, the wise too must work, but without attachment, in order to guide the general people who exist in the plane of worldly action. They differ not in their work, but in their attitudes of attachment and detachment. The scripturally learned teacher should not create confusion in the minds of ignorant, attached men by apparently advocating the neglect of duty for the cultivation of knowledge. Rather, he should set the example of selflessness in fulfilling duties, thus encouraging the ignorant in the performance of their prescribed duties. All actions in the world are in every respect effected by the modes of material nature, which impel the senses. But a man deluded by bodily identification thinks, I alone am accomplishing this work. However, O mighty armed Arjun, one who is in knowledge of the division of the modes of material nature and action knows that the modes are engaging within the modes, and he is detached from them. One who knows that the three modes activated by the demigods impel the engagement of the senses with their objects knows himself to be independent of these elements. Therefore, he does not consider himself a doer. Persons bewildered by the modes of nature are absorbed in the functions of the modes, the engagement of the senses with their objects. Enlightened persons should not agitate such ignorant, unfortunate persons by trying to convince them of higher philosophical truths. Rather, they should advise the conditioned souls to practice selfless action, which liberates them from absorption in the modes. Surrender all your activities to me with this understanding. All my actions are under the control of the indwelling Lord. In such consciousness, free from possessiveness and anguish, take recourse to battle as your natural duty. Faithful, unbegrudging men who always practice my teaching, this yoga of selfless action, are liberated from the bondage of action, even though they engage in action. But the arrogant who resent my teaching are bereft of all knowledge. Know them to be lost in ignorance. For even a knowledgeable person tends to act according to his nature or his mundane inclinations. The living being's endeavors are dictated by their natures. What then can repression accomplish? Although the senses are attracted to and repelled by the sense objects, one must not be controlled by these urges, for they are the greatest enemy of the candidate for self-realization. Even if it is imperfect, it is better to do one's duty according to one's own nature than to do another's duty well. Even death in the discharge of one's own duty is better, for to perform another's is dangerous. Commentary by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami. The eternal, super excellent natural function or dharma of the soul is pure devotion to Adhoksaja, the transcendental Lord. Therefore, even if this function is somewhat imperfectly attempted by one with external malpractices, such an attempt will be superior to the good practices within the material modes of nature and worldly chain of actions and habits foreign to the soul's nature. Even if death occurs during the cultivation of such pure devotion, in proper saintly association, it is the bestower of ultimate good. But in the name of good practices, to ignorantly follow another's path, anything other than devotion to the Lord, Dvitiya Vinivesh, is bhavaya, endangering to the spiritual progress of the soul. Bhayam Dvitiya Viniveshatashyad, Isad Apatasya Viprayayo Smriti, Tan Mayato Buddha Abhajetam Bhaktya Akesham Guru Devatma. This is from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. A person of fine intelligence will serve with single-minded devotion his Lord, who is his teacher and dearmost friend. But those who have turned away from the Lord adopt the illusory ego of considering the perishable body to be the self, forgetting their true identities. Their consciousness absorbed in secondary pursuits, i.e., mundane objectives, they are always fearful on account of the body and its attachments. Arjuna inquired, O descendant of the Vrishnis, by what is the living being compelled to commit sinful activities, even unwillingly, as if by force? The Supreme Lord replied, it is the desire to enjoy the mundane that induces a person to commit sin, and in different situations it produces anger. It is utterly insatiable, extremely malicious, and the worst enemy of the living being in this world.
Sorry, what verse are we up to? A few people lost.
38. As fire is thinly veiled by smoke, as a mirror is thickly covered with dust, and as the embryo remains completely enclosed within the womb, similarly, this desire covers the consciousness of the living being in these 3 degrees of intensity, according to the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, respectively. Knowledge is covered by desire, the constant enemy of the wise. It burns like an insatiable fire. never satisfied by offerings of butter. It is said that this enemy, desire, dwelling within the senses, mind, and intelligence, covers the perception of the embodied living being and deludes him. Therefore, O noblest of the Bharats, control your senses and destroy this desire, the embodiment of sin, which destroys both knowledge and realization. It is said by the wise that the senses are superior to matter, the mind is superior to the senses, and the intelligence is superior to the mind, and the soul is superior to even the intelligence. O mighty Arjuna, knowing the soul to be superior to the intelligence, steady the mind with resolute intelligence and destroy the formidable enemy, desire. End of chapter 3, the path of action from the conversation of Sri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge in the Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses. So the summary of chapter 3. Everyone is born for a life of activity. Actions done for the pleasure of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, without any selfish motive, do not bind a person to the world. For those who are self-contented and self-controlled, no action is necessary. But for those who are still striving to master their mind and senses, then action is unavoidable. In this case, one should practice selfless action. Deluded by the ego and under the influence of Maya or illusion, the bound soul considers himself the doer of actions which are in reality carried out by the threefold qualities of nature, Sattva, Raja, and Tamas, or goodness, passion, and ignorance. In this deluded consciousness, one is attached to the fruits of action, considering they are his due. But when one dedicates all of his actions to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord without desiring any fruit thereof, he attains perfection. This is also known as Nishkama Karma Yoga. Such a state of pure consciousness is not attainable by those who are driven by sensual desire. Either love or hatred of any sense perception is a great obstacle to realizing the self and God. Sensual experience must be tempered by yukta vairagya, or properly adjusted application of everything and person towards the service of the Supreme Lord with no self-serving motive. Desire is manifest through the senses, but the mind is superior to the senses, and superior to the mind is the intelligence or the reasoning faculty. Superior to the intelligence is the soul, and superior to the soul is the supersoul. Knowing this, one should learn to control his mind with the help of pure intelligence and conquer his sensual desires, using the sword of transcendental knowledge. Lust is the most dangerous and subtle enemy of man. To defeat this enemy, one should be well armed with Sambandha Gyan, or the transcendental knowledge of the self, of Godhead, and of Maya, or illusion, and their interrelationship. The greatest and most precious gift given by God to the soul, the Jivatma, is free will. The proper use of free will grants us opportunity of becoming free from the world and attaining our ultimate liberation, while misuse of our free will is the cause of our bondage and ultimate descent into the misery of a hellish consciousness. So this an acronym to help us remember the contents of the chapter is tree. A tree produces many fruits, but selflessly offers them to others. All year round, the tree dutifully offers shade and shelter, regardless of mistreatment by man or animal. Even when a tree is cut, it grows back with determination and strength, ready to serve the world again. The life and qualities of a tree give us profound insight into the art of living in this world, while simultaneously remaining completely aloof. Chapter 3 defines the practice of karma yoga, the technique of achieving spiritual connection with God through our daily work, describing the life of a true karma yogi. The Bible also affirms, be in the world, but not of the world. So the first letter T is for tyag, or renunciation, and this is covered in verses 1 to 9. At first, Arjuna displays the typical confusion of an immature spiritualist. He thinks spirituality means retirement from active life and the adoption of asceticism in strict seclusion. Often the easiest response in times of difficulty is one of escapism. Worldly life entails awkward dealings with money, possessions, people, and career, to name but a few. How can such a lifestyle be compatible with spiritual goals? Krishna explains that true renunciation does not entail a mere abandonment of worldly duties. True renunciation is to give up the mentality that one is the controller and enjoyer of all his deeds. Thus, by offering the results of one's daily work, money, knowledge, influence, etc., to God, knowing God to be the ultimate enjoyer and controller, one achieves a real state of renunciation. The second letter R is for rungs on the yoga ladder, verses 10 to 16. To work without any selfish motivation whatsoever is undoubtedly an advanced stage of spiritual realization. Thus, Krishna explains how to progress to such a level. He describes a yoga ladder with different rungs, which represent progressively higher levels of understanding. On the lowest level, an individual is solely interested in materialistic enjoyment and has no spiritual inclination. One stage higher is karma kanda, where one still desires materialistic enjoyment, but now tries to achieve it via religious observances. When one realizes the futility of material enjoyment, they progress to sakarma karma yoga, where one begins to offer a portion of his results to God, but still maintains some selfish motivation. At the next stage of nishkama karma yoga, one accepts whatever necessities he requires to maintain himself and offers everything else to God. Those who progress to this level of spirituality break free from all karmic implication and become peaceful and liberated. The next letter E is for exemplary, verses 17 to 35. Thus, karma yoga is outlined as the practical process by which one overcomes his material attachments through working in the world. So what about one who has achieved perfection through karma yoga? Do they need to continue working? Can they retire and simply meditate on God now that they are free of all selfish motivation? Krishna explains how perfected spiritualists continue working in the world for the sole purpose of setting the proper example for others to follow and be inspired by. The last letter, E, means enemy of the soul, verses 36 to 43. After hearing about this practical and logical process, the natural reaction is an enthusiastic resolve to dedicate oneself to it. But Arjuna asks Krishna, in life, even though I know the best course of action, what is it that impels me time and time again to act improperly and against my good intelligence? Krishna then explains the root cause of this phenomena is the eternal enemy of the aspiring spiritualist, lust. The inherent quality of the soul is to love, to selflessly serve without any personal agenda. However, when the soul descends to this world, that pure love perverts into lust, and one ceaselessly tries to enjoy in a self-centered way without proper regard for others. The way of lust impels one to seek immediate gratification and abandon activities that actually benefit them. In this way, lust cheats one of a progressive and happy life and offers only meager, instantaneous, and temporary gratification in return. So this is a summary of the third chapter, Karma Yoga.
You have a question.
Yes, I want a question.
Maybe someone will have to.
Can you go near them?
So someone's just asking, are you able in your own words to describe the outstanding points in the chapter?
Well, those were my own words.
But as in, like, just if it was just a very quick overview.
So, the Karma Yoga means to do one's duty and offer the fruits of that to the Lord. And at the same time, as we progress in our spiritual life, not to think that we are the doer of everything. Rather, everything is being carried out by material nature and using us as its instrument. But under illusion or Maya, we think that what we have done, that we ourselves have done that, and therefore the result of that belongs to me. So this is a very fundamental teaching of Bhagavad Gita, but it's very profound at the same time because it's difficult for all of us to understand that you may do your duty, but the fruits of that duty you are to offer to the Lord, and that not thinking that they are your fruits, but rather they are for Him. So this is the first lesson of selflessness or selfless action, that we are to do our duty without expecting any material return for that. So as we've all heard the expression, no risk, no gain. So leading from that, then we will say, highest risk, highest gain. But our Guru Maharaj would say, but are you ready for all risk and no gain? If you're ready for that, then you can begin your spiritual life. Because nishkarma means without desire. Karma means desire, and nishkarma means without desire. Karma yoga means the yoga of action. The action performed without any selfish desire is called nishkarma karma yoga, and it is, although fundamental to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, very difficult for everyone to grasp that. In a practical sense, when you're living in the world, your actions, they always have some result, and we think that that result belongs to us. So even if I decide to give some of that result or sacrifice some of that result to use in the service of the Lord, we are still thinking that it's my fruit that I'm offering to the Lord. But Krishna says, no, that is a misconception, a misidentification, that you are doing all of these things, but under the illusion that you are the doer. But actually material nature is the doer. Material nature is carrying out those things, and you're just being moved by that. If we can practice Niskarma Karma Yoga, that means doing whatever your duty in this world is, but offering that to the Lord, then that action will no longer be a source of bondage, but actually will be the cause of your liberation. Then Arjuna says, okay, that's all well and good, but why is it that even against my better judgment, because Krishna is telling how the soul is higher than the intelligence, and the intelligence higher than the mind higher than the senses. So in this way, the soul, if we work in the world according to our natural proclivity, but what is it that even a man of higher knowledge who understands this point, that it is not me, it is the material nature which is carrying out everything, but then what is it that impels us to commit sin? Sin is a difficult conception, actually, but that I don't particularly like, because it reminds me of, Catholic guilt or Christian guilt that we grew up with. But if we like, in our definition of sin means anything which is not directed towards the service of the Lord, but rather anything that is selfish and not selfless. So then if we understand this, still, what is it that forces us to act according to our base nature rather than our higher nature? And Krishna says to Arjuna that this is lust, or Srila Maharaj's Gita says desire. This is the same thing. In other words, karma. Not karma, but karma. And that means the desire to enjoy the world, to enjoy the things of this world. And that, he says, Krishna says, this is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. It is insatiable and is the perverted expression of our desire and our necessity for love. So we have within us the capacity and the necessity at the same time, both to give love and to be loved. But in this material world, that becomes tainted, and rather than love, we are under the influence of lust or desire. So desire, the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. Then Krishna says, you have to slay that enemy with the sword of knowledge. And we'll hear in the next chapter Arjuna's reaction to that and how Krishna teaches him further. So I think the main points of the third chapter. in a nutshell, if you like.
We have one more question from Madhuna Mohini.
Yeah.
Maybe if you ask her to open her
Yes.
mic.
Okay. Dhanyavad, Prabhu. Thank you very much, and all
Thank you,
your
Madam.
assistants. Very, very nice work.
Connected to eternal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Allora,
She
I have
What
a
happened?
question on quote number
on a-
35
Let me tell him we can't hear you.
because
You need to say
it's quite
because she
famous,
hear
but
you.
Yeah, well, we
So-
can't hear you, I'm afraid.
okay, but I can't
Please to go to the
understand
English channel.
You have to
what
go
it
onto the English
is.
channel.
Oh, because she's on the Portuguese channel.
Or a Portuguese translator will have to repeat for us. I don't know how it works.
You should be able to hear that.
Yeah.
Is,
Sì.
is your microphone on?
in italiano.
Yes.
Dai.
Maybe someone can translate.
Ah, ok.
Yes. I think Shanti might be helping me.
Ah,
Let's
ok.
ask her to type in the chat.
Ecco qua.
Yeah,
Allora,
we're not
audio
able to hear you, I'm
originale,
afraid.
metto
But so maybe you
inglese
can
o
type
audio
your question in
originale?
the chat.
Okay. Okay, I try like this.
Maybe in the
Is it
meantime,
okay?
someone can answer.
Is there another question?
Is it okay?
Yeah,
Can
and
you
in the
hear
meantime, maybe we can
me? You
take
don't
another
hear me?
question from somebody else.
Strange. But strange because I have
Plenty of time.
strange. Can't you hear me?
How does desire transform when one progresses from exploitation to dedication? But you might need to repeat it because
Okay, so who's this question from?
okay, so
Okay, never mind. The question is, how does desire transform? What is it? From as you progress from exploitation to dedication. So, first of all, we have to understand what is exploitation and what is dedication and what is renunciation. So, exploitation is the plane in which we live now. Jivo Devashis Jivanam, which means one living entity is food for another. So that's the world of our experience in this material world. That we live, we labor and live. We have to labor, and as a result of that, we're able to live in this world. But to live in this world means always at the expense of somebody else. So this is exploitation. In other words, we make some arrangement, usually that, I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back. And this way we have some kind of compromise in the world. You can exploit me and I'll exploit you. So my boss is exploiting me to do some work, and I'm exploiting my boss by taking some money for that work. You can say in a very coarse way of explaining it, but it means that that we have to live at the cost of others, and then so some people of deeper understanding, or they may come to realize that all exploitation is reactionary and therefore dirty or filthy, and it is not the desired way for a gentleman or gentlewoman to live. So then the reaction to that will be, I need to renounce the world. Means need to give up everything in the world, all of my desire and so on, and live without exploiting. But Actually, that's not possible, because renunciation is just the other side of the same coin. Renunciation and exploitation, the two sides of the same coin. They're both material. Srila Maharaj explains it is like if you work for an employer in the company, and when your employer's away, you rob him. You steal all of the goods from the shop or wherever it is you work, and you take them for yourself. So this is exploitation. And what will be the result of that? His business will fail and you won't have a job anymore. Then the other side is to down tools or to go on strike. So that also means that if nobody does any of the work, then the business will also fail. So then what to do? We are not to exploit, and at the same time we are not to renounce. Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls this as Bhukti Mukti Pishachiya. Bhukti means exploitation, and Mukti means renunciation, and Pishachiya means a ghost or a witch or an evil spirit or something like that. And he says, as long as these two ghosts live in your heart, renunciation or exploitation, then bhakti will not come to live in your heart. So we have to do away with that. So if we are not to exploit, we are not to renounce, then the only other possibility is to dedicate ourselves. Dedication is the answer to both exploitation and renunciation, the middle path. So at the moment we see everything and everyone as a possible object of our enjoyment. So everything that we come in connection with, every object in this material world, we make an assessment. If I engage with this object, it will benefit me or not. If it will benefit me, then I engage with it. If we think it won't benefit me, then we renounce it. And that's the same with our relationships with each other also. If I enter into a relationship with this person, is that going to benefit me? If it is, okay, then we can have some relationship. If it won't benefit me, we don't have any relationship with them. This is the plane in which we live now. But rather than that, a devotee of the Lord, he sees not everything in this world as something for him to exploit or renounce, but rather the ingredients for the service of his Lord. He sees everything in this world in that way. Can I utilize this for the service of my Lord? This is dedication. So the very same thing, the same object, the same persons, and so on, when they're accepted in relationship with the Lord, then they not only do they not bind us to this material world, that attitude actually frees us from this material world. So this is the path of dedication, and dedication means bhakti, or bhakti means dedication. So this is the proper adjustment of everything. If we try to see everything and everyone in relationship with the Lord, then that won't be something that binds us to this material world. Rather, it'll be the cause of our emancipation from this world. So at that time, it means it comes to a point where now we are thinking that it's all about me. Everything in this world is in relation to me. I, me, and mine. So this is Maya, illusion. But when we come to this realization that everything is meant for him, and he is the creator and controller of the whole world, then all of creation is meant to satisfy him. And as I am also part of that creation, I am also meant to satisfy him. So in which way am I meant for him? This is the, you can say, the journey of Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, discovering in which way I am meant for him. So in this way, our desire, because we're never free from desire, but this way now our desire is to try to satisfy the Lord rather than our desire to try and satisfy ourselves. And this is the turning point that makes the demarcation between material life and spiritual life. The very same things we are doing, but we're now doing them with the object of satisfying our Lord. So that means our desire has diametrically changed. So this requires humility. So humility means when we can understand that nothing in this world is actually meant for us, but we as part of this world are meant for him. So as somebody said, humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less. We can understand the difference between that. We're not thinking about ourselves. We are thinking about our Lord and how we are meant to satisfy him. So then our desire will change according to that. We may still have so many desires, but once we connect them with Lord Krishna, then those desires, they help to purify us in our service to the Lord. So this is the essential change in desire. So we may also still be able to engage that desire or that lust in Krishna consciousness. So that in spiritual circles, that lust is then transformed into what is called lolyam. Lolyam means intense desire, but intense desire for spiritual fulfillment. Spiritual fulfillment means not just dovetailing our desire with the service to the Lord, but actually transforming our desire from a material desire to spiritual desire. So once when one devotee, our Guru Maharaj told us, one devotee, Professor Sanyal, his brother came to stay with him in the temple, and his brother asked him, so, like, what do you do here all day? And he replied, nothing that you could understand. We don't do anything that you do. And he said, well, that's not true, because I saw just now you were eating rice, dal, chapatis like this. He said, and we do that at home. We do that. And Professor Sanyal said, no, we don't do that. He said, I saw you eating those things. He said, no, we don't eat, because eat means to consume. And we honor Mahaprasadam, and that is with no spirit of consumption, but with the spirit of service. So although the activities of the spiritual practitioner may look identical to the activities of the materialistic people, they are completely different, because one is about one's imagined illusory self, and the other is about the service of the Lord. So even eating, sleeping, walking, talking, everything is done as an offering to their Lord. And that is, Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, some outward similarity, but categorical difference. Categorical difference, because the attitude of the person practicing that is completely different to the attitude of the materialist, the spiritualist. So then we dovetail our desire with the Lord, first of all. In other words, we use our talents and all of the things that we have in this world, we try to utilize that for the service of the Lord. But that's more or less for our satisfaction. But when we realize that everything is for Him, and I am also for Him, then everything that we do, all of the desire that we have, diametrically changes its position from material to spiritual. That's all. It is not about that, something is material or something is spiritual. It's about its utilization. That's what defines it as either material or spiritual. Not about the thing itself. So you can say that, my car is made of materials, made of, metal and plastic and glass and all of these things. So you can say the car is a material thing, but by its utility, if you drive your car to bring you to the temple of Lord Krishna to serve Lord Krishna, your car is now a spiritual car. As by its utilization, that will define whether it is material or spiritual. And so also our own activities, we will be able to define them as material or spiritual according to our consciousness. So do we have that?
Yes.
His question there?
So Madana, we've actually got Madana Mohini's question clarified and two more.
Yes, good.
So hers is from verse 35. Could you just clarify what it means to do another's duty? Could you give an example?
Yeah.
And should we wait for the other two?
Yeah, wait for a moment. Yes. Which verse number? 32.
35.
35. Oh, I'm in the wrong chapter. That's
Do you want me to read it?
83, page 83.
yeah. Oh yes. In devotion, we have many duties in life, and according to our Shvadharma in the material world, that means according to our proclivity that we have in this world, according to our nature, then we will be engaged in particular activities according to that. But when we have some duty in the world, according to that, then we will have to perform those duties to the best of our ability. Although sometimes you may see that the duty of another maybe you may think, oh, I could do that better than they can do, and that may be true. But if it is not your duty to do that, then better to do your own duty selflessly than to do another's duty perfectly. So what is an example of that? Well, maybe have to raise some funds or something for our looking after our family and so on. And somebody else may be also engaged in a similar objective, but through different means. So if we are able to do our duty, although it may be imperfect, Krishna says this is better than doing another's duty perfectly. This is think of what would be a good example of that at this stage. So, bear with me. So when Krishna is speaking with Arjuna here, he's saying to him that you are a soldier and a warrior. So your duty is to engage in battle. And earlier on he said, and even if you die in doing this duty, you'll go to heaven. Rather than doing somebody else's duty according to their nature. So Arjuna is a Kshatriya or warrior, but later on, Krishna speaks the same teachings again to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Uddhava, he is a Brahmin. Then his nature is different to Arjuna's. Then hearing the same teaching, Uddhava Guru Maharaj says, Uddhava would have left the battlefield, and that would have been the proper course of action from receiving these same teachings of Lord Krishna for Uddhava. But for Arjuna to leave the battle would be to deny his nature as a warrior. And so Krishna's trying to convince Arjuna that he should do his duty in this way, rather than what he was proposing to Krishna. He was proposing, better that I just die unarmed and without any opposition, or better that I just go to the forest and live by begging. That would be better than to engage in this war. So now Krishna is saying to him, no, that isn't your duty. Your duty is to carry out your Swadharma as a warrior. And so this is, you can say, the example of that. In devotion, that will be determined by our relationship with Guru and Vaishnava. So if the Guru gives some duty to us and we decide that we want to do something else because we have a better idea, that may not be the proper course there. So in devotion, we have to consider in this way, what is required of me according to the order of Guru and Vaishnava. So in the previous ages, when Krishna was present here 5,000 years ago, one's nature according to Varna and Ashram was very easily defined. Because if your father was a Brahmin, then you must also be a Brahmin. And if your father was a Kshatriya, a warrior, you would also be a warrior. But in the Kali Yuga, that is not the proper understanding of one's nature. Is not according to your birth, but rather by your qualities. So, in other words, just because your father is if your father is Mozart, doesn't mean that you'll be born as a great pianist. But somebody else, some other kind of duty may be there for you. So we're not to see by our birth, but by qualities. And qualities are not always easily to define in others. But in previous times, that was the nature of things. Brahmin's son will be a Brahmin. Warrior's son will be a warrior, and so on. But so when Krishna's speaking this to Arjuna, he's telling that this is your duty because this is your Shradharma. In this world, you are meant to fight. You are meant to fight for the righteous cause. Previous chapter, he told, and if you don't do that, you'll be ridiculed. And because people will think you've left because of fear, cowardice, and all of your, fame as a great warrior, that will be finished. They will laugh at you, ridicule you. What could be more painful for one who has been honored? Dishonor is worse than death. So this way, but in the present age, in India, that Varnashram has become, you could say, a perverted version of Varnashram has become known as the caste system, which is all based on birth rather than on one's qualities, because people are unable to understand the difference between that. So that means that there was no opportunity to progress according to your qualities. We see this even in the Mahabharata, when we were asked this question last week about Ekalavya and Arna. Yeah, so that their parentage was not unknown. Ekalavya was Nishada, which means like a jungle man, native jungle man. And because of that, he came to Dronacharya to become his student, but Drona wouldn't accept him because he wasn't within the Varnashram system. He was born outside of that. And as a result of that, he couldn't accept him as a warrior. So by some other means than Ekalavya, he learned the martial arts by meditating on Dronacharya's form and so on, and practicing in front of a murti that he made of clay of him. And then Ashwatthama, not Ashwatthama, Karna's actually was the first son of Kunti Devi, and also the son of Surya, the sun god. And but he was adopted by a chariot driver, and a chariot driver's son is considered to be like a Shudra, lower caste, if you like. But Duryodhan recognized that he was not that he was actually by nature a warrior, a Kshatriya, and he recognized that in his qualities, and therefore gave him title and lands and so many other things so that he would be recognized as a Kshatriya, although it was he himself even didn't know who his parents were till Kunti Devi came to explain that to him later on. It was a different age, so then these question of duty and so on according to one's nature was much more easily defined. It's not so easy to define in Kali Yuga.
I have two more questions.
Yes.
From Priya Nandini.
Yes.
Now, when we go to our job or live in a family, we seem to pursue secondary goals. Is it really possible to connect to our eternal duty, to really call it Jaiva Dharma? Even such karma yoga seems to be a very high level. Does it all depend on the inner mood, or at some point, some kind of activity has to be rejected as well? And then furthermore, another beautiful addition to this thinking, we follow the path of bhakti, which is the highest, but how to really estimate where in Bhagavad Gita you are? How not to be hypocritical and say, I'm following the highest, but while having low desires inside.
So yeah, we are not to worry so much about varnashram, because varnashram is something established from another age, first of all. But within a godly society, varnashram is very helpful to keep us in the proper civilized line. But it is more or less an impossibility that could be established in the modern age. So whatever duty you have to do in the world, you should do that. And with your full energy, you should try to do that. This is Mahaprabhu's advice to Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami was a son of a very wealthy man. So in his own right, he was considered like a prince. But he had no desire for anything other than the service and association of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. So much so that he finally he couldn't even live in his father's house. He refused to go into the inner part of the house, lived in the courtyard. And his father placed maybe like 4 or more bodyguards around him, because they thought he's going to run away and join Lord Chaitanya. And his mother said to his father, I think you should chain him. Like put a shackle on around his ankle with a long chain, and so that he can't go anywhere. And Raghunath's father, he said, do you not understand that already I have given him a wife as beautiful as Lakshmi, and if she can't keep him bound here, then a chain isn't going to do anything. So that was rejected. And later on, of course, he did leave and went to be with Mahaprabhu when the opportunity allowed him to do that. But Mahaprabhu told him before, now you go to your home and you do your duty to your family. And Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi, but he gave a very naughty example to him. He said, just like a married woman has a secret lover, then when she's at home, she does all of her family duties even better than before. Carry out all those duties. He said, but thinking all the time about her lover, about when they will meet, and so many other things like this. But so that no one is suspicious of her, she carries out her family duties in a perfect way. She said, so Mahaprabhu told Raghunath, you think like that your secret lover, that's Krishna. And when you go in the world, you do everything that you have to do, but do it perfectly, knowing that while you're doing all of that, your consciousness is actually at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. You are thinking about your lover always in this way. So this is how we are meant to live in the world and practice our duty in the world, but at the same time try to attain to Krishna consciousness. So where we are in the teaching of Bhagavad Gita on the runs there, well, we don't really need to think too much about that. We need to try and see Krishna's teachings in the Gita in an overall way, and naturally we will be able to understand at every stage of our development what is relevant to us. What is relevant to you today may not be relevant to you tomorrow. As if we have a progressive spiritual life, then we will go, that will manifest naturally within us. But it doesn't mean that we can't attain the highest thing because we have so much involvement with the material world. That is unavoidable. It is unavoidable. But you can live in the world and not be of the world. That is the challenge. The challenge of Krishna consciousness is to try to be able to practice in spite of all the things that we have to do in the world, in spite of all our responsibilities that we have in the world. So, you know, we always tell this, you don't have to shave your head and wear a pink cloth and live in a temple and do all these things, you know, that you could, from wherever you are, you can practice Krishna consciousness. But I can tell you, in one sense, shaving your head and putting on a pink cloth and living in a temple makes it much easier for practicing Krishna consciousness, because that's all you need to do all day, every day. But while we have many different ambitions, desires, and duties in this world, the real thing is how we can make progress towards Krishna in spite of all that. So our Guru Maharaj used to say that the householders, they're thinking, oh, I wish that I could be like the brahmacharis, living in the temple and just devoting all of their time and energy for the service of the Lord. And the brahmacharis in the temple, they're thinking, oh, the householder devotees, they're so great that even though they're interacting with the material world, with Maya, with all of the illusion, all of the time, still they manage to practice Krishna consciousness. What a great thing that is. How great they are to be able to do that. Then we have to try to do practice Krishna consciousness in whatever situation we find ourselves. And we have to have faith that we're in that situation, because that's actually the very best thing for us at this particular time. This we have to understand, that there is no mistake. And when Krishna takes charge of his devotee, he puts him or her in a particular situation that is necessary for their advancement. So we may find ourselves in any kind of situation, but the art of Krishna consciousness is that within every kind of situation, we can still practice devotion. And so it is said, if you have no desire for anything in this world, you should worship Lord Krishna. And if you have all kinds of desires for this world, you should worship Lord Krishna. So come to Krishna in any way possible, because that will make your life blessed and progressive. Come to Krishna with all of your desires, with all of your foibles, with what we say in English, warts and all. Here I am, Lord, warts and all. Whatever I am, however flawed I may be, you know that. Then you make me as you want me to be. Because I cannot do it. But you can do that. Then that is an act of faith. And that wherever we find ourselves in the world, whatever situation we find ourselves in the world, we will try to see how that is actually where we're meant to be. There is no mistake, there is no injustice, there is no error in the way of the Lord. Sometimes we think that. Often I think, how is it that I came in contact with the devotees of Krishna, and that maybe it is some kind of transcendental mistake, but here I am, and there is no mistake. Just have to try to understand what is this particular position that I find myself in now. What does Krishna want to teach me here? How should I respond to that? And how should I progress in Krishna consciousness? That whatever has come to me is a result of me, what I've done in the world. That is no one else to blame but me. So then I have to face that and face that with good grace, and understanding that behind everything, the smiling face of the Lord is there. He has put me in this situation. Then I will try to understand why and what I can learn from this. So it's not what we find, not the situation itself that we find ourselves in, but rather how we react to that situation, how we deal with that situation. And if we can deal with that in a Krishna conscious way, or in other words, if we can try to see how the hand of Krishna is directing everything. Remember, not even a blade of grass can move without Krishna's sanction. So nothing is haphazardly, or because we live in a cosmos, not in chaos. Then that means everything is as it's meant to be. And if we can understand that, we can progress in Krishna consciousness more and more. So I'm not sure if that answers all of the things in Priyanana's question, but
Very beautiful.
if we have one more question, is there?
I think
we
we
have to
we
finish
might
it.
have to wait till next
Okay.
lesson.
We can keep the questions on it.
Yeah.
That's okay. So very sorry if we couldn't get to your question, but maybe we can pick it up again next week. I hope everyone will read through the worksheets, learn the verses, answer the questions. And if you have any questions from the homework questions, you can ask me, or you can send them, write them and send us a message, and we can see if we can address those questions, either in the meeting or individually. So thanks again everyone for coming, and hope to see you next week for chapter 4. Jai Sripad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Shri Krishna Arjuna ki jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Devashis Prabhu ki
Yeah.
jai.